And hello everyone, how is everyone doing? It is Peter Sam, the Narrow Gauge Engine here, and today is another Rating the Railway series episode. This episode is Percy, the small engine, versus Toby the Tram engine. Both very strong books in my opinion, both very good. Sorry if you can hear the fan in the background. It is sweltering. I am dying of heat stroke. Alright, so just it'll go soon when it decides not to be hot. I also have a special announcement at the end of the video, so yeah, if you want to stick around for that, feel free. If not, that's fine. It's just a little what's going on situation. However, as usual, we're going to leave Percy the small engine until later, and we're going to look at Toby the Tram engine first. So we're kicking off this batch of 4 stories with Toby and the Stout Gentleman. Gotta say, pretty strong start here. It introduces us to Toby, who is the obviously the most recognisable probably of all of the Steam team, apart from probably Thomas and Gordon. He's unique. He has backstory here. I think that's something that we need to acknowledge, because Thomas ain't got no backstory and everyone loves him. So yeah, he has this very nice backstory about how he came from such sadness, and he just wants to help out another railway because his other one closed down. He doesn't want the same thing to happen here. And yeah, it's just the way it's written, the way it's presented, the way that the story unfolds. Honestly, if this was just the first book and the 6 before were just prequel stories, I think most people would be happy with it. It's very strong. It's not the best in here, don't get me wrong, it's not the best, but it is absurdly strong for what it is. Okay, next up is Thomas in Trouble. Now, this is you can consider this a second part to how Toby became a member of the Fat Controllers Railway. It's the later part of his origin story, focusing more on Thomas and how we need a tram, and why a tram would be more useful and effective in a certain circumstance than a steam engine. It's a nice thing. It's a bit out there, but I don't think many people have any problem with it. I certainly don't really, but I do have to say it is kind of out there. The fact that there's some new constable who just so happens to be very strict on the rules. Not saying that's impossible. I'm just saying that I think we could have done better. I think we could have had a better explanation as to why Toby was needed. I definitely still like it though. I still like it. There's no problem here. I just think it's just a bit nitpicky. I'm being a knobhead. Okay, and next up is Dirty Objects. Not the strongest. Again, it is still incredibly strong, more so than the other 2 stories in here, but I think the next story after this is the strongest. So Dirty Objects is definitely the Kickstarter story for the James and Toby relationship that they have. As I am a younger member of the Thomas community, I grew up with the CGI Miller bullcrap that we don't talk about. But yeah, you know what I mean. And I saw these 2, and I thought, well, why have we paired these 2 up? And as I grew up more and developed, I understand now. And I didn't realise it came as far back as this. But yeah, it's just a good story. I mean, it's a bit, I don't want to say it's a bit lacking of story, but you know what I mean. It's sort of more about the action than it is the plot, which it's fine, but I'm in this sort of situation. I think a more story driven thing than a crash driven thing is more appropriate, but hey, it's my personal opinion, so don't come for me, Dirty Objects fans. I'm just saying what I'm thinking, and I think this is good but it's not the best. The best is yet to come. Okay, and so we come to the last story of Toby the Tram Engine, and the best one, in my opinion, Mrs. Kindly's Christmas. It's very, like, the Three Railway Children inspired, you know what I mean? Like, it has that sort of theme to it, but I still like it. An engine is saved from a landslide from an old lady who is way too sick to be saving anyone or doing anything. And you know what? In those, like, 10-15 pages, you get to feel for Mrs. Kindly. You get to know her and you get to love her because, you know, she saved our #1 engine. It's a bit weird that it comes in here, in my opinion, because it's more about Thomas than it is Toby, but I have no complaints because it is that good. Apart from that, I mean, I'm just saying it's good, really, and it is. I think it's amazing, especially how we don't get some sort of sad ending where she dies. I mean, yeah, obviously she's not going to die, it's a children's book, but you know what I mean. You know, there's hope at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. She's just amazing, and so is this story. Okay, so now we come to Percy the Small Engine. This is like, I want to say it's like near the end of C. Reginald Dalby's illustration period. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know why I'm assuming it's not, because John T. Kenny and C. Reginald Dalby have pretty different drawing styles, and that is clearly Dalby. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this was actually his last book. Was it? I don't know. I know that this book has some good stories, some meh stories, some okay stories. Let's unravel them, alright? Because obviously it was written by Bill Baldry. We knew that. If it wasn't, wouldn't be here. Alright, so our first story here is Percy and the Signal. Pretty weak start. Not gonna sugarcoat it. It's pretty poor. Not as poor as like James the Red Engine, but like it's like just like a few leagues ahead. I swear I said like about 5 times there. But anyway, let's delve into it. It is just like messing around. It's something light-hearted. It's something light. It's just, you know, it's a light story. But it's not my type. I'm going to be honest. I prefer the ones with the lore and the backstory and not so much of a dicking around. Yeah, so this doesn't do it for me. Although I can appreciate a light episode. It's definitely not my style. I'll say that. But yeah, it's alright. Not my personal taste. But yeah, I can recognise it as being a good one. So the second story here is Duck Takes Charge. Now this story brings us Duck, who, while I'm not going to fanboy and obsess over him like you all seem to do, I can appreciate a good character when I see one, and he is a very good character. I'll give you that. He's definitely one of the more quirky ones, one of the more weird ones. As for the story itself, anyway, it's alright. It's nothing too light, but it's nothing too heavy either. It's a nice mix that we have. It's got not much problem. I'd just say it's a bit bland, personally, but again, that's down to personal preference. Still, it is the strongest one in here, by far. Definitely a good one. This is the highlight of the book, and it probably will remain that way. So our third story here is Percy and Harold. It's a Thomas and Bertie rehash. I'm sorry. I'll give it points for the cool rhyme at the end, and you know, the chase itself, and Harold, because I hate him, but you know, at the same time I appreciate that I can hate him. So yeah, it's a Thomas and Bertie rehash. Audrey, you are running out of ideas. Let's be honest here. You are running out of these ideas. Just face it, man. It's alright. We can all face our problems, alright? Anyway, yeah, not really partial to this one. It's still better than the first story, but like by an inch. And yeah, I just think it's very meh. It's kind of a copycat and does some does some little cute things. Yeah, it's just basic, isn't it? It's just the minimum you'd expect. So our last story here is Percy's Promise. Beautiful. It's beautiful. It's not as good as Duck Takes Charge by any means, but it is pretty good. I'll give it that. It just shows Percy's determination to go through that for his friend, for the promise, and to get the children to safety, obviously. But, you know, I think we should focus more on Percy's friendship with Thomas than, you know, the fact that they could have, you know, drowned. I don't think they would have drowned. I think the stakes were very low. It was just him trying to fulfill a promise. But yeah, it's got atmosphere, it's got mood. It ties up the Harold thing, kind of. We just sort of get him being nice for once, which, I mean, yeah, that's fine. Harold, you pretend to be nice. We all know you don't care about Percy, really. Yeah. I like it, man. And yeah, I know it's kind of iffy in certain areas, but no, I think it's strong. Not like Duck Takes Charge strong, but like pretty strong. So now on to the ratings. We have Toby the Tram Engine. Toby and the Stout Gentleman and Thomas in Trouble both get 3 out of 5, whereas Dirty Objects and Mrs. Kindly's Christmas get 4 out of 5, giving us a total of 7 out of 10. Percy the Small Engine, Percy and the Signal gets 2 out of 5, Duck Takes Charge gets 4 out of 5, Percy and Harold gets 2.5 out of 5, Percy's Promise gets 3.5 out of 5, giving us a total of 6 out of 10. So which is better? Well, as you've seen, it is indeed Toby the Tram Engine. This is down to personal preference. I'm just going to say it right now. There's no real, like, tie or no real massive gap to say that this is actually valid. Because if it was a tie, you'd kind of say they're in the same league. But if it was, you know, a giant gap, you'd say, obviously, this one is better than the other. This, however, it's, like, in the middle. This is based on personal preference. And, yeah, my personal preference is more lore-based stories than, you know, light-hearted ones. And half of the, like, book of Percy the Small Engine was light-hearted. So, yeah, that definitely detracted for me. Although I can appreciate a good light-hearted story. I gave it points for that, because, you know, in these times, we need those. Yeah, they're both good, though. I keep saying them, except for the 3rd episode where I bashed James the Red Engine, but, you know, they're good. They're all very good. And, yeah, so if you don't want to stick around to see the special announcement that I've got going, you can just leave now. However, yeah, if you want to stick around for that, it'll be in a second. Now, throughout the background, you may have seen this map as the video was going on. This is my map of the island of Sodor as presented through Tales from the Railway, my Thomas and Friends take along, whatever you want to call it, series. It is complete. I'm just in the process of doing a script. This is obviously my canon and my canon alone, so pretty much everything goes. There are some very clear differences. There are some things I've taken from Audrey's map. There are some things that I've taken from the Unlucky Tug's map that he made for the classic series. And then there's things like the Arsdale Railway that are completely different. And then, like, you know, you've got some weird stuff like, I'm trying to find it. Where did I put it? God damn it. Oh yeah, Toby's Branch, which is off of Kelsthorpe. Yeah, just weird stuff like that, you know, helps make my map more unique. I will have a video coming soon, pretty soon, going through it all. But until then, my friends, See you later.